It has been 3 weeks since the diplomatic talks to defuse the crisis in Ukraine began, but Russian troops continue to line the Ukraine-Russia border. And finally, the Kremlin invaded Ukraine as U.S. and NATO officials have revised their military plans to prepare for all possible scenarios. But leaders of the European Union remain divided over what sort of response would effectively deter the Kremlin from continuing their invasion of Ukraine. EU officials have bemoaned being sidelined from big decisions on Ukraine, with the bloc's foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell expressing that any discussion on European security must involve the EU and Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron has called on the EU to finalize a proposal to negotiate with Russia. Speaking to European Parliament members, MEPs, in Strasbourg last week, he said the security and stability plan should first be built among Europeans and then shared with NATO allies. But not every EU nation is in tune with Macron. Some have a troubled history with Russia, preferring a transatlantic response rather than a separate EU proposal. War is mostly politics, and the EU is sitting on the sidelines on purpose to see how the politics and war will play out. The differing stances have seen Russia downplay the EU's geopolitical power. The Kremlin's decision to omit any mention of the EU in its 2021 national security strategy shows that Moscow does not consider the EU as an important actor in foreign policy anymore. Ukraine's biggest natural gas supplier. While Russia invading Ukraine is on the belief of stopping NATO and the U.S. from setting up shop in Ukraine, which is close to Russia, the EU believes that they are not ready to get on the bad side of whoever wins this scuffle. One of the many unsettling questions and facts raised by the possibility of a Russian invasion of Ukraine is what an armed conflict in Eastern Europe would do to the energy supply of the countries of the European Union, which have become increasingly reliant on Russian natural gas for electricity generation, industrial application, and commercial and residential use. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the countries of the European Union and the United Kingdom imported more than 80% of the natural gas they consumed in 2020, up from 65% a decade before. Of the gas it imports, the EU receives the majority of it, about 74%, via pipelines. The remainder arrives in liquid forms, typically on specialized cargo ships. Russia is the largest supplier of fuel to the countries of the EU, with about 35% of total imports, all of it arriving via multiple pipelines, many of which cross through Ukraine on their way to countries in Central Europe. Should Russia send troops to the Ukraine, disruptions caused by fighting could prompt some shortages, particularly in Slovakia, Austria, and Italy, which receive most of their natural gas through pipelines via Ukrainian territory. So, here we have the country that delivers the resources the EU needs, which is Russia, fighting the route being used to transport the resources, which is Ukraine. A classic caught between the devil and the blue sea. However, Europe would likely face other disruptions not directly caused by fighting. The United States and its NATO allies have promised to apply a set of punishing international sanctions on Russia if these sanctions include a refusal to buy Russian gas, or if Moscow elects to turn off the flow in retaliation. The shortage of gas flown to Europe would further worsen. This could result in an energy crisis that would leave the EU searching for alternative sources for natural gas, much of which is not near at hand. Norway pumps a considerable amount of gas into northern Europe through existing pipelines, but according to officials in that country, the system is operating at full capacity. Flows from the UK and Denmark are also unlikely to fill the gap. Other pipelines serving Europe include the Trans-Anatolian Natural Gas Pipeline, which moves gas from Azerbaijan through Turkey, and a network of pipelines in North Africa that connect to Spain and Sicily. A major new pipeline known as Nord Stream 2, which would deliver Russian gas directly to Germany by crossing under the Baltic Sea, is awaiting approvals before it can come online. And Germany is one of the countries that is sleeping on the sidelines of this war. U.S. President Joe Biden has warned that the U.S. will take whatever steps it can to block the new pipeline from opening if Russia invades Ukraine. Unfortunately, Europe has found itself in a position where it doesn't have too many good options. The only real alternative to existing pipelines is to increase the amount of gas that Europe imports in liquefied form. The EU does have a large number of liquefied natural gas (LNG) import terminals dotting the coast along the Mediterranean Sea, the North Atlantic, and the North and Baltic Seas. However, a lot of those terminals are being fully utilized for the first time in a while. That helps make a bad situation a little bit better. But they're running at pretty much full capacity, and the main threats, either a pipeline cutoff through Ukraine or a total pipeline cutoff, hasn't happened yet. So, while that import capacity is significant, we don't think anybody expects that with their existing infrastructure, Europe could just totally turn away from Russia right now, and instead rely entirely on, say, LNG imports. It's going to take some time, but for now, Russia and Ukraine is still needed. So, why the EU might come on TV and try to organize peace talks between Ukraine and Russia, it isn't for love of humanity, but rather so that they don't get cut off from both sides. They both need Russia's gas and Ukraine's route. That is all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave us a like and hit that big bold red subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Till next time.